Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It's a friendly Friday. It is February the 7th, and it looks like I just closed out the window that had everything that we were going to be talking about, so it's going to take me just a couple seconds to pull that back up. But we had some breaking news come in literally while I was heating up my last cup of coffee, while I was getting ready to go live, walked downstairs just a couple seconds ago, and I've got something that nobody else has right now. We've got the new letter to the entire FBI staff. It's the letter to all colleagues kind of thing. We're going to get into that. We got Steve Friend to comment on it with me as well. So we'll probably lead off with that because it's way more important or more breaking than anything else. But we're going to talk about DOGE. We're going to talk about USAID. We're going to talk about misinformation. We're going to talk about all the things that have been going on this week, which has been quite crazy. Before we do, let's go ahead and get started with the folks that are keeping us on the air. Our friends over at The Wellness Company. You guys can find them at TWC, which stands for The Wellness Company, twc.health/Kyle. So you got to ask yourself, what if the next global health crisis isn't a pandemic? What if it's a darker plan? It's not actually a conspiracy theory. We've got no coincidence that Dr. Anthony Fauci was pardoned January the 1st, all the way back to January of 2014. This is a pivotal moment in history. Most of us have seen that the Obama years and the 4 years afterwards, where you had Biden in office. Shortly afterwards, you got folks like Anthony Fauci coming up and doing controversial programs, gain-of-function research, spending money on coronaviruses in biolabs, USAID, spending money all over the globe doing things that don't seem to be in America's interest. We're talking about things that were bioweapon productions, threats that had been brewing over a decade. If this wasn't disturbing enough, you got all kinds of things, finding out that Pfizer executives bribed by the FDA, trying to get these things out here. The vaccine that many of us rejected is going to affect a lot of our friends. There's a coordinated global effort to control information. It's about power, control, and profit. And coincidentally, the media has been sounding the alarm about a new strain of bird flu. We've been talking about it here as well. One that could rapidly spread, wiping out whole populations, they claim. That's why you need the Wellness Company's Contagion Emergency Kit. We're not trying to do fear-mongering. It's just taking control of your own health. It's engineered by Dr. Peter McCullough, and his medical board includes 5 life-saving devices like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Tamiflu, and a nebulizer, designed to protect you from a global threat. It also puts it right back in your hands where you can be in control. You're not waiting in a line for a pharmacy. Ordering is simple. Just fill out the intake form online. 1 to 2 weeks, it'll arrive. It's for U.S. customers only. That way you can stay ahead. Nobody's going to catch you off guard if you go to twc.health/Kyle. Again, twc.health/Kyle. Use that code Kyle for up to $32 off and free shipping. We're going to get into a bunch of weird stuff. We're starting off with this FBI director letter and my buddy Steve Friend. We are indeed going to bring him on. There he is. There's Steve Friend. What's going on, man?
I am excited to read about what the acting director is putting out there. And I have to steal a phrase from producer emeritus of the Kyle Seraphin Show, producer Phil. Is it quite possible that half a dozen guys with X accounts and dad bods are taking down an $11 billion agency?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is what is happening right now. They're just going to have to deal with it. So here is, well, first of all, let's do this. Let's talk about the coins. I want to get your view. I got the coinage, which was pulled yesterday. Some people don't realize this, but this is a picture, like a Jesus-like Greek depiction of Mr. Driscoll. What's his name? Brian Driscoll? Is that right?
Yes.
And the Driz, as he is known, now has a coin that he adorns. This is FBI agents spending their time. I'm sure this wasn't on the government's time card. I'm sure they weren't punching the clock while they were doing this, designing him sitting at a kind of faux resolute desk and telling people over at the White House, if you don't like what it is, then come over and fire me. You've got the coin up here that we're looking at. It's got an eagle, says, I was on the J6 shit list. Don't tread on me, we the people. Let's just talk about irony. You want to do irony with these coins?
Well, they actually had to update the design because they originally put "Don't tread in me" on it. And Garrett and I covered this on the American Radicals podcast, and I thought, well, in light of the LGBTQ madness that's gone on there for the last several years, that sort of checks with them. And I do appreciate the image of Driscoll sitting at a desk where the flags that normally are displayed behind are in front of him, indicating that he's actually on the receiving end of the desk.
the real, he's sitting at the desk like on the wrong side.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's really the type of management you would expect over at the FBI. But the idolatry is very clear and apparent, and also just the way that the FBI cosplays as a serious law enforcement agency, because challenge coins are legit. They're a legit icon within the military space, within law enforcement. You're supposed to have done something serious to earn something like that. You don't just put it out there. And these guys really, truly believe that they've done something important, that this was their 9/11, and they're going to get through all of this. And hopefully a lot of them lose their jobs.
I won't cry about it if that happens, for sure.
I will piss myself laughing, knowing that their children are going hungry.
All right, so get some sickness in you.
Paycheck to paycheck, life has consequences.
All right, I'm going to pull up this director piece here. Let me add you to the scene real quick. Okay, so I just added this in literally, folks, as we went live, seconds before we went live. This was the piece that I wanted to address. And so I'm going to pull it up on my screen over here where I can read it to you. It says, Dear colleagues, Office of the Director, as promised, I'm reaching out to you to keep you up to date on our engagement with the Department of Justice regarding their requirement that we provide lists of personnel assigned to investigations or prosecutions related to the events January 6th, and also this Hamas case in New York. Earlier today, we were directed by the Office of the Deputy Attorney General to provide lists of names for our employees by name. Because why not? Why do they have to redo this list, do you think, there, Steve?
Because they're secret agents who aren't actually paid by the Department of Justice, but by the Department of Agriculture.
Okay. We're given our significant concerns regarding your personal safety and security. We provided lists on the classified enclaves with caveats that appropriately identifying the information as law enforcement sensitive. We're reiterating once again our safety concerns of our personnel and the risk posed to you and your families should these lists become publics. This is the interesting part, I guess. With the release of identifying information of FBI personnel, I'm well aware that there's a possibility that we may be targeted for doxing, swatting, or other threats. God, this irony is rich. To mitigate these risks and ensure you're best equipped to identify any personnel or potential challenges that arise, we encourage you to utilize the Digital Exhaust Triage Guide and the Digital Exhaust Opt-Out Guide to help mitigate your digital footprint. You can get those from the CSO, which is the Chief Security Officer. I want to be clear that we do not have the information indicating DOJ intends to disseminate the list, and we are fully aware of these risks, which we believe are inherent in doing so. There's a media policy letting people know that if you have any direct contact with the media, you have to tell the public affairs officer. Every day, I have the honor of representing you, Brian Driscoll. Go.
They're setting up the Andy McCabe lying situation where they will hand over this list, and then should it find its way into the public space, then they'll be able to say you illegally leaked that to the media and then charge people with crimes. They still think they have the power. That's what's incredible about this. And when they're worried about getting swatted, you sent SWAT teams to people for misdemeanors, or even if they had been alleged to have committed a felony, people who said, I'll cooperate with you, you sent tactical teams up to them, and you geeked those teams up to get into shooting, we'll say. I mean, you told them that these people were insurrectionists who were just a breath away from overthrowing the United States government without a weapon, mind you, and then sent tactical teams at 6 o'clock in the morning to go arrest them 20 months after their alleged offense happened at a distant, far capital, and they'd committed no sort of infractions in the intervening time span. And now these guys who are really super OPSEC conscious, if you're that OPSEC conscious, how about you go over to your county assessor for your property and tell them that you're law enforcement, and then that way your personal residence is not listed. Something that the agent who went after Steve Baker, Craig Noyes has failed to do still. Will lives in Wake County, North Carolina. Craig Noyes, you probably should get on that. I'm not doxing you. I'm just saying what's publicly available.
So it's interesting that they mentioned the media policy. They also mentioned that digital exhaust triage, which is what you're talking about. There are techniques you can go if you want to be. Any private citizen can. You can actually go and get your stuff removed from the county record if you think there's a sensitivity issue here. I don't know. The irony of talking about swatting and doxing when they were swatting and doxing people. Have you ever had your name redacted from a criminal complaint or a statement of facts, an affidavit that you put out for arrest warrants and whatnot?
No, I was not a secret agent, and I knew I was a public servant. That's sort of why I was mandated and did carry around credentials and presented them upon request to anyone who asked for them.
Is there anything that FBI agents do to mitigate the threat of like danger to their person?
Allegedly, they carry firearms.
Oh, shoot. Are they any good with those firearms, generally speaking?
It depends on whether or not they're executives. I mean, the rank and file, as they're called by people who allege to be experienced veteran FBI agents. The brick agents, I mean, I would say roughly 15% could probably hit the target. But within the executive ranks, that's why they have executive shoots where no one actually knows what happens there. But no, they're not really particularly proficient.
So I'm trying to figure this out. I just read the thing from Project Veritas the other day. I got no love for James O'Keefe, but the Project Veritas and the people that work there should have never been raided by the FBI for a flippant diary, for something of nominal value that would have never even, like if you said someone stole $50,000, I had someone steal like a couple $100,000 worth of building materials and rebar and cross state lines with it. And we didn't open the case because it wasn't up to the threshold and it wasn't a lot we could do about it.
And it wasn't even stolen property. They had to reinterpret the law. It was mislaid property. And it wasn't even used. That Ashley Biden diary, those people took it to O'Keefe. He didn't even use it because he couldn't source it, because he was doing something that journalists are supposed to do, and they're supposed to confirm the information. He was relatively responsible with that information.
Yeah, it's almost like they had lawyers that were telling them what was appropriate.
For that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that stuff is wild. And I said no love lost between me and James, but I would still do what I did to protect people in the journalistic sphere, because if you guys don't know this, like I brought information that eventually like knifed that case. They finally closed it apparently this week. And so the statements of facts and the probable cause statements for that affidavit went out into the public. It's like 90% redacted. They've redacted every name. They've redacted they've redacted the names of the journalists that they were targeting, the operations, and like what sort of information they had going into Project Veritas. James is out there like trying to raise funds by claiming that there was like some CHS at Veritas. There didn't need to be that. And I don't think there was. There's just like he's so compromised publicly. It's so stupid about all the things that he puts out there. But there should have never been a case. This is the same story as the Donald Trump stuff. It's like two things could be true at once. You can be a detestable person, which I think O'Keefe is, and you still shouldn't have the FBI kick down your door as a journalist, because all journalists are supposed to have protections, even the ones that we're going to cover today, who are terrible and say dumb things and go out there and obviously are running hit jobs that are paid off. I'm shocked that they almost always give it away. They redact things that they're ashamed of. Like I've never seen anything like this, and I don't think anybody in the FBI has either.
This is what Kash Patel spoke about at his confirmation hearing, because he was a defense attorney, which I think gives him a unique perspective. He has an appreciation for how much power the federal government can bring in a prosecution against a defendant. And he said, if we can't provide due process and civil liberties for the worst people, then there's no assurance that anyone will have them. And that includes people like James O'Keefe, who may or may not have committed a felony of sexual assault inside the District of Columbia.
Yeah, I've got a clip here. This is something that was put out by a spin group. It was covered by, it looks like MSNBC. They are crying over the lack of privacy and the possibility that the FBI would shut down and expose Americans to real threats, which I think we'll laugh about in just a second together. But let's just play this little video here. This is the common sense was a common vice, or uncommon sense was a common vice. This is MSNBC. It's a vignette. This is a compilation of anonymous FBI agents pleading for their jobs. I'll get your reaction. We can pause it if you want. Just tell me if you want me to hold the video and I'll pause it. So let's go ahead and start it. All right. So anonymous letters from an FBI agent reflects the short-sightedness of Donald Trump's retribution.
For those seeking to raise their awareness, I offer this vignette, the letter reads, free of political bias or moral judgment. It is not about any one person, but an amalgamation of multiple FBI special agents.
Can we talk about the political bias and moral judgment? You want to throw that in real quick?
I'm actually more interested in the pedantic jerk who wrote this and who used words like vignette and amalgamation. Someone who presumes that he is the most intelligent person in every room that he walks into. Clearly, hubris is a problem for this person, and that shouldn't surprise anyone since they're reaching out to MSNBC as opposed to going to the Public Affairs Office, which I think is probably something that would result in their termination.
Well, it got rid of Garrett O'Boyle for 30 months, even though he's still technically an employee that's never been paid in over, now 2.5 years? All right, we'll keep going.
I am the coach of your child's soccer team. I sit next to you on occasion in religious devotion. I am a member of the PTA.
Hold on.
With friends, you celebrated my birthday. I collected your mail and took out your trash while you were away from home. I played a round of golf with you. I am a veteran. I am the average neighbor in your community.
Go ahead, just respond.
You sat down at a religious worship ceremony with someone, probably surveilling them because I know you're a godless heathen, and you took out their trash so you could collect it as evidence because you determined that they were an anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremist who had a perception of government overreach, ergo was a threat to the United States government. You go to a PTA meeting, again, to surveil parents. All of these things are references to the abuse and weaponization that the FBI has subjected the American people to for the last 4 years. Again, I'm going to piss myself laughing when I see your children go hungry.
This is who you see and know. However, there is a part of my life that is a mystery to you and
Secret
prompts
agents.
a natural curiosity about my profession. This is the quiet side of me that you do not know.
This is about to make you puke. Hold on. The first part, I orchestrated a clandestine operation to secure the release of an allied soldier held captive by the Taliban. This is the most ridiculous. Like, that's what the DIA and the DOD do. You know why?
Not an FBI job.
That's not an FBI mission. I prevented an ISIS terrorist from boarding a commercial aircraft after I converted him to Islam, converted him to ISIS, and got a CHS to push the case along so that I could actually do. Anyway, we're going to keep going. But for those who've listened to this program long enough, you understand that a lot of these things are this is the Mutual Aberration Society, which is what you call the FBI agents and then all of the advocacy groups for them. They admire the Bureau, and the Bureau admires them for admiring them. And it's a circle that continues to go around. It's a freaking federal circle jerk.
They're Colonel Jessup, and they really believe their own hype. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. You sleep at night under the blanket of protection that I provide you. Why haven't you thanked me today?
Actually, there was we saw that on LinkedIn. There was a guy who's a former EAD or a former senior executive. Was he an EAD, that guy? Kyle something or other, Van Block? Yeah.
How dare you question the manner in which I provide you your protection?
That's right. He literally said that you sleep at night because the men and women of the FBI don't, or something like that. And I was like, I used to sleep like a baby. And then people would wake me up out of a slumber and tell me to go arrest somebody who was an oath keeper. So
orchestrated a clandestine operation to secure the release of an allied soldier held captive by the Taliban.
That's so bad.
I prevented
It's
an
allied
ISIS
soldier.
terrorist
Was this
from
in the
boarding
40s?
a commercial aircraft. I spent 3 months listening to phone intercepts in real time to gather evidence needed to dismantle a violent drug gang.
that might be
I
true.
recruited a source to provide critical intelligence on Russian military activities in Africa.
Made up.
I rescued a citizen.
This guy's
who was
working
tortured
drugs,
to near
terrorism,
death
and
by members
counterintelligence.
of an outlaw-
Bullshit.
Hold on. We rescued citizens who were tortured to death by members of an outlaw motorcycle gang.
Oh, that sounds like my neck of the woods down in Daytona Beach because OMGs are a big deal here. Maybe I know this guy. No, nobody in Daytona Beach, RA is particularly impressive.
I interceded.
motorcycle gang. I interceded and stopped a juvenile planning to conduct a school shooting.
Really? Which one?
I spent multiple years monitoring the activities of deep cover foreign intelligence officers, leading to their arrest and deportation. I endured extensive hardship to infiltrate a global trafficking organization. I have been shot in the line of duty.
Got it.
Remember, this
is an amalgamation. This is Barack Obama's writing a memoir saying that these people didn't actually exist. This is just a coalition of all their experiences into one person to represent this as being a far more sophisticated person than they actually are.
Right, because if you see an FBI agent, you should think all of these things could be true, even though they're not actually true. Okay, keep going.
Something else about me, I was assigned to investigate a potential crime. Like all previous cases I've investigated, this one met every legal standard of predication and procedure. Without bias, I upheld my oath to this country and the Constitution and collected the facts. I collected the facts in a manner to neither prove innocence nor guilt, but to arrive at a resolution. I'm now sitting in my home, listening to my children play and laugh in the backyard, oblivious to the prospect that their father may be fired in a few days. Fired for conducting a legally authorized investigation.
Okay, it's deep enough. That's as deep as we're going to wade into the bullshit. Go ahead, Steve Friend. Let it rip.
So you conducted an investigation that was legally authorized. Was it ethical, moral, or constitutional? Did you follow due process? Did you follow the actual processes and procedures that have been laid out for you in your Bible, your dialogue? I mean, we talked about the Driz challenge coin. There was also a prayer card where they tried to represent him as Jesus Christ holding onto the dialogue as opposed to any sort of biblical literature.
Yep.
Did you follow any of that? And then even if you did that, did you for a moment think, I also have a responsibility to be responsible to the public safety. Maybe I shouldn't send a tactical team to go arrest someone at 6 o'clock in the morning when he said, I'll cooperate with you the last time you actually did any sort of investigative activity on him a year and a half prior. Should you have taken, I don't know, some amount of control over the case that was you were theoretically the case agent, or did you just follow orders? Were you told to stand back and stand by and say, you know, Steve, maybe I should keep this more anonymous since it's more of an amalgamation, but it's kind of personal to me when I sat down and I was told this is lawful. Your responsibility to your oath of office is real. Your training to adhere to whistleblower standards is real. The fact that you went to the Holocaust Memorial and recognized that the fact that the agency could be off the rails is real. But your real duty is to do what you're told. You should set an example for your children who are playing in the backyard right now as their father is contemplating whether or not he's going to lose his job. And you should just follow orders. Pissing myself laughing at this amalgamation. Anybody who loses their job, I hope it is in the thousands of people.
Mindy from our chat said, I knocked on your door and came to talk to you about a tweet that you made. That seems also like is missing from that amalgamation of all the honorable things. I wonder how many of the honorable things that are listed in there just came out of headlines that this person read, because I always found that the biggest apologists for the Bureau were the ones that had the least experience. For what it's worth, I'm assuming you have people coming out of the woodwork to talk to you right now too. And the people that work cases don't seem afraid, even in the least, that they're going to lose a job because they've been working cases on the actual things that people are never going to be mad about. Like, you know, transnational organized crime, outlaw motorcycle gangs. They're going out there and trying to stop child sex trafficking and so on. They're going after cartels. They also don't get their names redacted from a single affidavit, despite the fact that, as one of my buddies told me, I literally go and prosecute people who cut off witnesses' heads, that cut off people's heads to send a message, and no one's ever taken my name off an affidavit. Meanwhile, if you prosecute a journalist for a diary, they're going to go and say that, I guess the people that work at Project Veritas, there weren't like a lot of physical specimens there that were physically intimidating, to include O'Keefe. Like, none of those people are scary. And apparently they need to have your name redacted to protect you from, like, the journalists so they don't dox or swat you. We're just living in an upside down time right now that is so... It's so navel-gazing.
This is the natural outgrowth of an organization that has told itself repeatedly forever. It's injured its shoulder, patting itself on the back and said, you are the preeminent premier law enforcement agency for the United States of America. You are the best. There are 50,000 people who applied to be in that chair, and you rose to the top because you're just that awesome.
You are so awesome. Yeah, it's hard to, it was stupid when I was there. When I looked at that, I was like, how are they even doing this
The
stuff?
math doesn't add up. Wait a minute.
No, it does not. All right, let me break away to our sponsor. This is our newest sponsor who I've been pretty excited about. Folks, I'm going to give you kind of a quick story, too, about our friends over at Silent. It's SLNT. You can find them at slnt.com/Kyle. Steve, their bags are not advertised as such, but they're basically TSA proof. So I wanted to share that. Did I tell you what happened when I got picked over by TSA?
No, I need to hear the story.
So I was standing in line. I had my Suspendables badge on my hoodie that Garrett O'Boyle made for me. I decided to I got secondarily suspected right at the gate because obviously it was totally random, and I was the only guy pulled out. I'm a white male with a beard carrying a backpack, dressed in adult clothes. I'm not wearing pajamas and flip-flops or clogs or whatever it is.
You had a restrictive waistband? How dare you? Blasphemy.
Yeah. So all of these things being the case, I go up and the guy pulls me aside and I've got my silent bag on, which is sitting over here on the wall. Actually, I'm going to go to the full screen here real quick, folks. So I've got the silent bag, which is sitting right there on the wall, and it's a Faraday bag and it blocks out RF and all the other cool stuff. But it also happens to be something that TSA is unable to access. So the guy looks at my bag, looks at the roll top, and he just is absolutely baffled. He goes, I don't know what to do. And I don't know what to do with somebody who says that to me because I don't know what the question or the problem is. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't know how to access your bag, sir. And I'm like, it's a roll top. You just have 2 fast tech buckles and then one on the top. You just undo it. And so he was so flustered that he didn't search my bag. He just like looked at it, like rolled it, touched it a little bit, didn't even open it. Yeah, he just admin blessed it off and then he gave it back to me. So I cracked up laughing about it. There's something really special about having something that is a government-proof bag on accident because it's too sophisticated. Anyway, we'll go ahead and talk about them real quick. Let me throw their piece here up on the screen. There it is. All right. So, and this is some footage from SHOT Show where we got to see him. Again, slnt.com/Kyle. Guys, they have awesome products. I'm about to order another one, the E3 every day. Between big tech and government and corporate America and criminals and the TSA trying to access your privacy, they're coming after you 24/7. And there's no other option. You have to protect yourself. You sort of take on your own risk. You can start with Silent. It's a Faraday product that blocks all incoming and outgoing signals. I've tested it out. It's very effective so that your devices are invisible and they're safe from the outside world. They make backpacks, they make phone sleeves, they make pants now, which we show a picture of here. I'll do a longer form over on some of the real stuff. They have a patented signal blocking technology that blocks wireless signals, giving you peace of mind. A lot of commercial Faraday products don't work. They don't stand up to the test in real life. And as someone who worked counterintelligence, I've tested them, and these actually do the job. You can place your devices inside, close it, and that's it. Now you're safeguarded from unauthorized access. It's pretty awesome. They're a really good-looking product that doesn't scream, I'm a tactical cool guy keeping my stuff. So you can go silent today by going to slnt.com/Kyle. You'll save 15%, which could be as much as $50 or more on their products. They're not the cheapest thing in the world, but they are really, really well made. I'll just tell you that from owning them. All your qualifying orders will get free shipping. Stay ahead of what's coming at you. Secure your privacy. And again, it's slnt.com/Kyle. That's Aaron on the screen, who's the owner of the company, came from his dad's background. Really cool stuff. Again, 15% off with that promo code KYLE. I'm a gear guy, as you probably know. Steve, were you a gear guy, or is that just like, that's my thing?
I'm not quite a gear guy like you are, but I got to be honest, pants that could be TSA proof, that sounds really appealing to me. I think that could be a really fun time.
It's not gay if it's TSA, and it's not gay if there's a guy in front of you on his knee that's trying to look into your pants if you're getting searched at the airport, or something like that.
Well, before the executive order, that was actually encouraged.
It's not frowned upon, is what you're saying. Okay, here's this one. This is fun. We're going to crush some news right now. We did some FBI fun stuff. EMP proof. Yes, that's the question that people have. That's what they make their bags for. They're literally set up to do that for the government and the military. They got military contracts. All right, EPA. The workers that do environmental justice are put on leave. Your top 2 guesses. Which news organization is reporting about environmental justice, Steve?
NPR.
Oh, right off the bat. Okay, nearly 170 employees at the EPA, Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. That's the OEJECR office. You didn't know we had one, but we did. They've all been placed on paid administrative leave on Thursday, according to officials speaking on condition of anonymity, because they're terrified they're going to be DOGEd. Again, today's episode is entitled Beware of the DOGE, which is a fantastic thing. They should stamp that on the White House lawn. It should be across all of the chain link out there. Many employees were put on leave, either worked part-time or they primarily worked on environmental justice efforts designed to reduce environmental harms to poor and minority communities that historically and at present face disproportionate harm from environmental justice issues and climate pollution. Are any of the things that I just read, which were very difficult to pronounce, are those real? Am I just crazy and old?
No, they're 100% real. We're actually going to be talking about some of this on American Radicals podcast tomorrow. The fact that the EPA has these environmental justice parts, they've devoted, I think I pulled it up, $177 million last year to 17 environmental justice thriving communities technical assistance centers, which basically say we're going to be green as we make you live near the railroad tracks in the poor side of town.
Got it. I'm shocked that these people had jobs. I'm shocked that they thought they weren't going to lose their jobs. I'm shocked that after like November 5th, they weren't scrambling to find a private sector job. There's some real hubris in looking around at what happened in 2017, because Trump did actually shut down all the DEI offices. What they did is they just shuttered and they just sat there and collected a paycheck, which is a classic government move. Don't worry about my work. Just make sure that my paycheck is on time because I'll be here.
I mean, look at that photo that you threw up from that news article. There was a rainbow flag out in front of the building.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it definitely was. All right. In response to all of the crazy that's been going on and the DOGE, and we've got some fun DOGE stuff too, the natural order indicates there should be a pushback. We should have balance in the force. And so Representative Al Green, who represents Texas, he represents Houston, Missouri City, and Pearland, which is suburbs of Houston, very close to the areas. Well, it's on the southwestern side of where Sheila Jackson Lee's constituents are. So apparently Houston is just representing the dumbest people, or being represented by the dumbest people in Congress. He's decided to do the only thing you can do. He's brought articles of impeachment. We're only 2 weeks in. It's about time that somebody impeached Donald Trump. So they're going to give it a shot. Let him make his own argument. Are you prepared?
I can't wait to hear it.
This, by the way, Al Green is the guy who was shaking the cane the other day. The other geriat, he walks around with a gold-headed eagle cane, which looks absurd and stupid, maybe just to me. Enjoy this.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, with a to whom it may concern message. To whom it may concern, ethnic cleansing in Gaza is not a joke, especially when it emanates from the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, when he has the ability to perfect what he says. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza is no joke, and the Prime Minister of Israel should be ashamed.
And you know that everyone wants to be Martin Luther King Jr. That guy looks like a mongoloid. Why is he built like that, do you think?
He does look like a Cro-Magnon man.
He is very Cro. Yeah, he is. Got some interesting genetics.
I mean, the ethnic cleansing, which I guess really began October 7th when, I think you say a bunch of people flew in over the border with lawnmowers on their back.
They had lawnmowers upon their back, trying to do the lawn mowing work of the Lord.
Yeah, Donald Trump really, on October 7th, 2023, was, he just was all on board because he was the most powerful person in... No, he wasn't. But I mean, look, this is just going to be a tradition like no other for the future, for the foreseeable future, as long as the social compact is broken and we're engaged in this cold civil war. Whoever is the president, articles of impeachment will be filed against him by the opposition party.
Let him make his argument, okay? Let the man cook. I'm going to actually go back to, he went on the Washington Journal on C-SPAN. He actually got roasted by multiple callers, which was pretty funny. So I'm not going to actually play that. But he's not going to be real specific about why they need to impeach him. But they need to impeach him. And it came down to a suitability issue, which sounds like something from the FBI's academy. Anyway, they're going to get you. And here it is. And by the way, I cannot help this Martin Luther King Jr. thing that everybody aspires to. It's not his normal way of talking. Wait till he goes on C-SPAN. He doesn't sound like that.
And I would add this. The president should be impeached. I said that on the floor of the House. He should be impeached. But I'm not saying that it would be necessarily for what happened in Gaza. There's a target-rich environment. There are many things that may be placed in these articles of impeachment, but it should be because he's unfit to be president. Unfit. And when these impeachment signs start going up around the country, when people see these signs, I assure you, the pressure is going to be on Congress to do something. Impeachment doesn't mean that he will be removed from office, but it will say to the country that this is what we stand for. It's been said that the protests don't have a plan. Well, the plan is here.
The plan is here. And can you describe the plan, the thing that he held up, Steve? So once they start going up around the country, what was that exactly he was holding up?
It was a handwritten note card that said in all capitals, impeach Trump. I mean, this is what
he did underline it, though. He underlined the impeach part of it, which...
There was no exclamation point.
There was not.
Punctuation error there. Partial credit, Congressman. This is what everybody does, though. This is what the right does when they're not in power. It's what the left does when they're not in power. They do this cosplay thing, and we're gonna push this movement forward here, and make sure that you buy the handwritten note cards from my campaign website, of course. Or we filed articles of impeachment. If you go to the front page of our website here, you'll see that. So you'll feel really good, warm and fuzzy. You should donate to my think tank.
You should donate. Listen, they've been doing this since 2017. I got a 2017 clip of more TDS. This was early TDS and late stage TDS. They're indistinguishable at this point.
Other than the canes, yes.
Well, that's just the age thing. Yeah, you're right. So everybody has aged 8 years since the last time they lost their minds. But this is this thing. I actually forgot that Jamie Raskin used to have hair. I'm actually glad for him that he lost it in the cancer thing because it actually looked terrible. He is a decidedly, what did they used to say when I was a kid? My sister used to say it. It was really mean. He's an unfortunate looking man. Yeah, he's not advantaged in the looks department. He looks like a fool.
The pirate thing is an upgrade for him.
It was an upgrade, 100% upgrade. I didn't even know. I thought he was trying to be a blood or a crip. But anyway, enjoy Jamie Raskin and Jake Tapper, who's totally not carrying water for the TDS sufferers.
You and several of your Democratic House colleagues met with a psychiatry professor from Yale, Dr. Bandy Lee.
Do you think that they actually got an evaluation of themselves? I had to cut in. Sorry. Do you think that they should have gotten an evaluation for themselves? A serious psychologist and professor would have actually.
A serious psychologist could definitely diagnose a patient that they've never met. And you want to talk about the time? I don't recognize Jake Tapper without wearing the host glasses that they all have to wear now. They all look identical.
The Chuck Schumer glasses. All right, let me go back to it.
You and several of your Democratic House colleagues met with a psychiatry professor from Yale, Dr. Bandy Lee. She told CNN today, quote, as the president is unraveling, he seems to be losing his grip on reality and reverting to conspiracy theories. There are signs that he is going into attack mode when he is under stress. That means he has the potential to become impulsive and very volatile, unquote. Did she say that to the assembled congresspeople?
Well, I think that Dr. Lee and other psychiatrists who've been up to meet with members of Congress have been predicting increasingly delusional and paranoid behavior on the part of the president.
There was something set up in the mental health community called the Goldwater Rule, deeming it unethical for any mental health professional to give a professional opinion on a public figure who he or she did not personally evaluate. How could she say such a thing without examining the president?
Well, they're not violating the Goldwater Rule, which is incorporated into a lot of state bodies of law governing mental health practitioners, because they're not making a specific diagnosis under the DSM of the president. As I understand what they're doing, they're acting the way that any citizen has a right to act under the First Amendment to say that they think the president is dangerous and unable to successfully meet the powers and duties of office. And
so it's just a couple of people talking. They're not using their professional credentials.
There's no appeal to authority whatsoever, right? They're just expressing an opinion. So you could just find anybody on a street corner who's out there screaming about how Donald Trump is responsible for things that happened when he wasn't the president of the United States. And I actually, I will give credit where credit is due. Jake Tapper actually asked the question that I brought up. Like, that's not ethical.
That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2017. The world has changed since then. Now he has the glasses, so...
It's like the Yaya sisterhood of the traveling pants with those glasses. Once you put them on, you just become fully enraged and distressed by who the president is, as long as he has an orangish hue to his skin.
You can't help it. The other thing that they want to do is they've made advocacies. So look, the right on the media side is equally propaganda. I'm going to actually play you something that I find very off-putting. I'm going to first play Tom Homan talking about the Chicago resistance. So now you got politicians, you got Homan is just like, I wish he didn't slur his speech so much. I know it's an age thing. And what's going on?
This is why we have to have Kristi Noem with the cosplay too. It's really irksome.
The things he says, I wish he would just do it in tweet form, because they're fantastic and they're biting and he's spot on, but he's like such an imperfect messenger for the delivery. That being said, I'll take actions over words every single day. So here he is talking. The problem is these are both Sean Hannity clips, and Sean Hannity is famous for doing what Sean Hannity does, which is that he gives the guest their own answer, which they request before you go live. Yeah. On Fox News?
They request talking points, and then they request revised talking points with more details so they can make sure that the host has them. And then when they put you remote, they ensure that you can't see the host. They actually put a black screen in front of you, so you're just staring into a black abyss. And then the host proceeds to list off all of your talking points and says, and don't you agree with me? By the way, we're going to go to break now and see the reverse mortgages.
Okay, so this is an insight that most people will never have, because most people have not appeared on Fox News the way that you and I have, or some of the other things. A decent organization will give you what's called video return and audio. So you'll hear the host that's talking to you, and you'll also see what's on the screen. I'm able to do that for you right now. You can see me. You're seeing the same thing that our audience is seeing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, including the chat.
Steve, can I give you some other talking points and have you agree with those?
No. It's almost like you want me
It's like I have no idea what you're going to say. I have no idea. Steve may come out like hot and angry. He may come out like warm and fuzzy. Friendly Friday could go any way, every day because I have absolutely no idea. Most of these things, he hasn't even seen the clips I'm about to play him.
Cold reactions are always the best if you're capable and competent of doing the magneto and assembling the bridge in front of you.
Right. Meanwhile, that's not what goes on anyway. So, like, just bear with me. I don't like showing Sean Hannity clips, but I do like showing Tom Holman kind of own. And so we played this last night on the call-in show. So some of you guys have already seen this, but it's worth showing it again. I'm going to kind of like step you through an argument that this is ongoing, and then we're going to get to some USAID stuff, which is actually relevant to all of this because turns out they've been trying to control the spigots of information, which we found out about Politico, but there's even bigger stuff going on. So Mike Benz is going to talk about that in a second.
Let me read a headline to you. Chicago leaders encourage residents to exercise their rights in resisting Trump's deportation policies. The governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, basically admitted that he knew somebody that didn't have full documentation, that he was hiding over his garage.
But there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Your comment on all of that?
Well, I think the governor's pretty foolish saying what he said because I got note of it. Won't let it go. We'll look into it. And if he's knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien, that's a violation of Title 8 United States Code 1324.
Very straightforward. If you violated the law, you're on the list, right?
And the governor's staff tried to walk that back, and they were, I think, indicating it was an amalgamation. It was something like the anonymous FBI agent. I definitely don't want to be afoul of Tom Holman because he might not speak very clearly, but he definitely seems to know the law.
And we had Pam Bondi confirmed, and she said that they're going to go after sanctuary cities. So that was kind of like how it started. Here's how it's going.
And I'm proud to be part of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Let me start with you've cracked down on sanctuary cities. The DOJ has put a pause on all federal funding to sanctuary cities and states. You filed a lawsuit against Chicago and the state of Illinois for being a sanctuary city. Am I wrong in my interpretation that a sanctuary city is aiding and abetting in lawbreaking?
Sean, what they're doing is they are choosing illegal aliens over the safety and security of their own citizens and the men and women of law enforcement who are out there trying to protect their citizens. Not only did we sue today the city of Chicago, we sued the state of Illinois, we sued the mayor, we sued the governor, and we sued others. And let me be very clear, if you don't comply with federal law, you're going to be next.
Oh, a vow. She did really well. I mean, he tried to set her up to follow his exact roadmap, but she was competent enough and good enough on camera to come across and craft her own sort of message on that. And Pam Bondi, I think she's really the right person for that. I mean, look, we missed out on Matt Gaetz, but I think that he might have absorbed a lot of the attention, a lot of the incoming fire. I mean, a sacrificial cushion. I think Pam Bondi, particularly in our communications with Cash, he's really excited about working with her. And once he gets through confirmation next week now, thank you very much, Republicans, there'll be a nice little peanut butter and jelly combination.
Compare her to the old lady that used to be the Attorney General, Merrick Garland.
Loretta Lynch? Oh, no, Merrick Garland. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still coming out of the cobwebs of the DEI.
I cannot do a good... Dude, I am not a good old lady voice generator. I can do some of the voices, but I cannot do Merrick Garland. It's too like this and whiny and crying. And actually, I guess I could do it like this. And he always seems like, I don't know. I never saw him get on a live hit and just answer questions from anybody.
Oh, I mean, he stutters and he stammers and he really struggles to string together a coherent sentence. Anytime you saw him with media, he either had prepared remarks or they did multiple takes where they had to clean it up even better than they did for Kamala Harris.
No, I definitely agree with you. It's kind of it's wild to see some of that stuff. The last little piece is some other questions. I got another home in here, kind of hammering home the point that the media has actually decided that they are going to be part of the resistance now. There is some information. My dad's old radio station, the station that I actually worked at when I was right out of college, called KCBS. It's a radio station in San Francisco. They are the largest AM signal in the Bay Area, which is obviously far left. and they were giving real-time updates on where the ICE agents were that were coming to effect arrests. This is wild stuff. I was asking my dad, I'm like, have you ever heard anything like that? And he's just like head in his hands. It's so disappointing to watch them do this. So they're trying this. And then you've got residents that are out there screaming, like, trying to alert the illegal aliens from Trens de Agua, that like freaking criminal gangs that they're running down. And so is that a violation? Maybe so. Here's another Tom Hallman. I think he does okay with this, too. Again, he kind of slurs his way through it.
I have so many questions. First of all, if they're shouting and helping these people get away with bullhorns, how is that legal to get help from the people in the streets? I know they can protest, but that's not what they're doing.
You're exactly right. When they come to they cross the line of impediment, and that's why I'm working very close, starting this morning with Department of Justice, and where do they cross that line of impediment? So they may find themselves in a pair of handcuffs very soon. So working with DOGE on that, get some legal guidance on that. I'm not an attorney. I know what SecOps is about. I know what crossing that line is, but getting DOJ back up on that. So it's something we're looking at right now, Harris. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. This is not a game. When we show up these sites, this is a dangerous job for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and all the DOJ agencies. To have that type of interference puts our officers at great risk. Not only the officers, it puts the aliens at great risk, because anything can happen when we take our eyes off the goal here. So we're addressing that immediately today. I'm addressing OPSEC today, operational security, how these leaks are happening. We've already identified how this operation got leaked. I'll deal with that today.
Okay, so what he's talking about is that somebody from inside of ICE actually leaked to the gang that there were ICE agents coming and when. You want to talk about, imagine that. You've done a lot of SWAT operations and tactical hits, so maybe you can kind of talk about what would happen if somebody knew about it.
If somebody knew about it, they could set up and counteract your entire plan, right? I mean, you have a strategy, and there's no perfect way to bring somebody into custody. Like, there's always going to be a certain amount of risk, which is why you're theoretically using special weapons and tactics as an enhanced ability to bring somebody to justice, right? If they know the plan ahead of time, they can counteract it, and that would put the officers in danger and put themselves in danger, because if you start sending rounds, you have to expect them to come back. And if you're in an urban setting, and we've already talked about the competency, the SWAT guys are definitely one of the more competent, but that doesn't mean they're perfect. There could be collateral damage as a result of that. And the fact that these people are sitting there and saying that these members of Tren de Aragua are part of our community, I mean, it's sort of like the street communists who are wearing the rainbow flags saying from the river to the sea, and apparently they didn't realize that they get thrown off of a building if that ever were to come to pass.
No, definitely that. Anyway, it's just interesting. Like, the resistance is full-fledged. It's on every level. It happens in the media right now. It's obviously happening in the communities of these people that are arguing against probably their own safety, if you're going to be really honest about it. And then I guess it's because they believe this stuff. So let me throw this thing up. This is USAID, USAID. The shutdowns are rippling across. We're seeing this like messaging campaign that is really, really dramatic, talking about how it's shutting down grassroots and it's going to cause actual human lives to be lost. Meanwhile, they have no problem showing some of the crazy, like, we've been seeing what they've been spending money on. I didn't realize that all the stupid spending that we've always been aware of, like kind of the Rand Paul stock and trade, like this is where our money goes kind of nonsense. There's a woman that has a funny little TikTok that's out there right now. And she was like, I've been laid off from USAID and I've been spending U.S. taxpayer dollars. I've almost been able to get carrier pigeons in Madagascar to recognize the difference between brand name Doritos and great value Doritos. We've only spent $72 million and we're so close to getting the final results. So pray for me right now. And if you want to Venmo me, you can. And it's like, yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. I've actually got an interesting little clip that goes back to 2021. This is August of 2021. This is Alejandro Mayorkas, right? Who is one of the great demons that has been part of the deep state administration that's been screwing over Americans for quite a while now. And listen to his priorities. Like, I'll get you to reflect on them in a second. Listen to the things that he specifically calls out like they're a victory for the American people. Clearly the opposite of what an America First agenda would look like. Check this out.
USAID already has launched a series of new initiatives to promote good governance and expand opportunities that will enable the people of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to build better futures in their home countries. This includes the region-wide $5 million regional challenge to advance gender equality. In Honduras, nearly $24 million to expand employment opportunities and promote civic and election participation and integrity. In El Salvador, nearly $12 million to help small businesses recover from the impact of COVID as well as new multi-year solicitations for up to $115 million to address crime and violence, including gender-based violence, and provide opportunities to youth and others. In Guatemala, more than $19 million to strengthen anti-corruption efforts. These are but a few of the examples of the efforts that are already underway.
What?
This is a parlay of so much about what the slow creep of bureaucracy and communist overtake within every level of infrastructure as it happens. The philosophy is we're just going to print money to spend it because people need jobs. We're going to create jobs. So we will just build a thing somewhere. No, it doesn't matter what it is, but we will create organizations. Organizations will spring up to take that government money so that then they can have jobs that are completely at the teat of the government. And then they thought, but we can achieve more politically. So we should give the money to these NGOs that are just springing up because they have political sympathies that align with our own. And then they thought, the thing that we're building at the end of this, that can be political as well. So we're going to push to have tranny kid shows in Ireland. So along the way, every step of the way, they're sending money to American 501c3s, NGOs that are doing their work on behalf of the communists that have infiltrated and propping them back up with donations and with marching in the street, ensuring that they have employment on the other time. They can just sit at home and work remotely briefly, and then push that money further and eventually achieve more political missions. They've basically politicized every step of this process that at its core is still about expanding government, which is antithetical to anything that is about the small R Republican form of government.
It's not just them, because they've been funding media, so you're getting this media movement. And the second thing is we're seeing governmental movement. So I'm going to show you a couple of those. Before we do, let me just go over here and do a plug for my buddies at Shield Arms, who have sent me 2 weapons that I have not shot yet. And they're like, hey, dude, you go out and fire your guns? And I'm like, no, I'm really busy. And I'm getting a lot of sad faces. So I'm going to let you guys know, if you want an outstanding product made in America, made in Montana, America, of all places, shieldarms.com. A lot of folks actually don't know who they are in the gun world. And whenever you show them the innovations, they're like, oh, damn, not only does it look good, but it actually functions. And it's a cosmetic upgrade that also has like a functional upgrade. Their folding stock lowers are brilliant. They are perfectly weighted. They are an improvement on the original designs. You guys can get 5% off rather using promo code KYLE. So use my name site-wide, including on firearms. You can check them out. They make magazines. They make extensions. They are all made in their own factories. They actually have means like all the way vertically integrated, where they're building them in Montana over in Big Fork, which is just on the east side of the Flathead Lake in the Flathead Valley. Pretty awesome place. Really, really cool people. I got to hang out with them at SHOT Show. We'll show some videos of that later on. They're making soft goods. If you're looking for slings, or you're looking for pouches, or even want a fanny pack to carry a gun, which I do have one that's actually brilliant. It uses magnets instead of zippers. Check out Shield Arms. Again, shieldarms.com, promo code KYLE. Give them a good look. Let's do these things. This is the stuff that's driving me nuts, because we've seen nonstop blocks of Trump's agenda. We saw it in the first round, and they're doing it again right now. So I'm going to run through a couple of these. Number one, yesterday, we found a judge temporarily blocking Donald Trump's federal government buyout. The idea that the fork was something that people could take. Fork you is what they seem to be saying. Anytime I can use a fork pun, I'm going to use it. But the judges are trying to block these things, and it's not the first one. They've blocked the birthright citizenship thing that they're trying to push down. And I don't know why anybody in the Trump administration would ever listen to a lower judge that is not listed in the Constitution. Like, those courts are beneath the office of the president. I don't see how we make them on par. They keep doing it, though. Anyway, there's about 5 of these. So any thoughts on the government buyout? Like, it's an option.
That interpretation, the fact that it's gone to a court to begin with, it's an offer, right?
We're trying to stop you from having an opportunity. Right. Go ahead.
So we're going to fight you. How dare you offer us this benefit? So we're going to sue you for giving us something that we didn't have before. That's a nonsensical argument that would be made, but it's only made in a court where the judge is going to be sympathetic to whatever the leftists want them to do. And that is just to throw up roadblocks, whatever they are. That's their sole interest, because they have no institutional power at this point.
Right. So they're just going to be doing, these are just literally yield signs and or stop signs attempting to get something done that it just doesn't need to be there. There's a couple of other stories that were involved. Here you go. Letitia James was talking about this one. New York and other states plan to sue the Trump administration over DOGE access to federal systems. Under what standing can you imagine a state attorney general could sue over the executive accessing executive records inside of an executive department?
Well, I mean, sort of similar standing that they could convict Donald Trump of committing some sort of election finance crime that was outside the statute of limitations as a misdemeanor and make it a felony 34 times. Just make it up as you go within the communist enclaves of New York State.
I've got another one on here that is going on. This is the, I think this is the, there it is. I'm looking for these. I've got them all kind of scattered around. It is a judge. There it is. Trump's birthright citizenship order blocked by Maryland judge. This one is worth reading out loud just a little bit. The day after the federal judge. This is coming from the 7th. So that's this morning. It's been updated. Day after the federal judge in Maryland temporarily blocked Donald Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship from taking effect nationwide. The federal judge in Washington has ruled against the president as well. There's a new judge whose name is John Conahar. This is not the person that we're seeing on the screen. The woman we're seeing on the screen is a U.S. district judge named Deborah Boardman, appointed by former President Joe Biden. She's agreed to a preliminary injunction sought by immigration rights groups. She's funded, or the organizations that brought the suit are called CASA and the Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project, which says that he's violating the Constitution and the federal law. Suddenly, these people have discovered federal law and constitutions, and they want them to step in their favor. I'm going to give you a little background on her in a second, but the birthright citizenship, how does that hit for you as far as the argument that's been made?
It's just dead on its face, dead on arrival, because the actual person who crafted the 14th Amendment explained how it meant, and it would not pertain to illegal aliens. It pertains specifically to slaves.
That was it. That's the only person. So
it's in the congressional record. So for anybody who's trying to assess the language of the 14th Amendment, I believe he was a representative from Michigan, wrote extensively about this, spoke extensively about it, how it was going to apply. They said, we brought the slaves here under our government. They are therefore entitled to be here as citizens. That has nothing to do with anyone who just comes over and drops a baby, which is why if the ambassador from France comes here and his wife has a baby at the hospital, that kid is not an American citizen.
Even though they have a visa to come here. They're like allowed to be here. And not even the people, we're not even talking about people that are not allowed to be here, that have no actual status to be in this place. Interesting thing about this woman, Boardman, I found something in 2023. I kind of went through some of the stuff that she's done. She's obviously pretty radical and hard to the left. She favors environmental groups. She also denied a request for an injunction for parents in Montgomery County. That's just outside of Washington, D.C. It's close to where I used to live, but it's on the communist side of the state lines up in Maryland.
And it's arguable they're both communist.
Yeah, it's probably true. These parents brought a suit and they wanted a preliminary injunction that would allow their children to be removed from lessons where the books featured LGBTQ characters. They claimed that exposure to these books would contradict their sincerely held beliefs about marriage, sexuality, and gender. And she said that mere exposure, this is a direct quote, mere exposure in public schools to ideas that contradict religious beliefs do not burden the religious exercise of the students or the parents. And therefore, You have to put your kids.
That's going to the Supreme Court, that case, by the way.
I know. So it was actually in the Fourth Circuit. They went in a 2-1.
Great to be overturned by SCOTUS like that, and that should probably create some sort of cement ceiling on your career.
So let's see. It actually went as of just a couple days before the inauguration. It was actually picked up by the Supreme Court to be evaluated. It sounds like. But this is the woman we're talking about. I mean, she's obviously the crazy thing is that we have these partisan actors that are sitting in here and they're pushing forward all the agenda, which is why you're going to get lawsuits that'll actually, even though there's no standing, they'll totally get heard. That the executive cannot can handle executive actions. I wanted to throw something up from Pam Bondi, which I'll have you read over here real quick. This is her recommendation for the multiple instances of the weaponization committee that she's going to put underneath the DOJ to investigate the DOJ's actions. Have you reviewed these at all?
No, this is hitting me cold. I know she established this task force, which I thought was more appropriate and optimal than Congress doing it.
Why don't you read them out just as you're evaluating them right here and kind of get a look at what we're talking about? The first one being
weaponization of Jack Smith and his staff spent more than $50 million targeting President Trump and the prosecutors who were involved in that. The federal, that's well-founded. $50 million and you came up empty. Federal cooperation with weaponization by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Again, the fact that they took misdemeanor election finance crimes outside of statute of limitation, and then there was evidence that the DOJ sent their attorneys to help. Mm-hmm. Third one is the pursuit of improper investigative tactics and unethical prosecutions relating to the events at January 6th.
And this is your FBI agents who are crying right now. Like there's a legitimate reason to and they actually mention it right there in bold. It's distinct from good faith actions by federal employees who are following orders from superiors, but they would have to be lawful actions, by the way. But the problem is there's plenty of people that took those things and said, oh, you want me to run a case? I don't have the bandwidth to run it because I'm running actually important FBI cases. So we're not going to open up a misdemeanor. There's always going to be an opportunity cost when you open stuff up. And anybody that's worked in an FBI agent, like you choose the cases that are the most egregious. That's what you do.
And there's also a consideration, too, like to my own situation. They said to me, they compartmentalize your responsibility to the point where you have plausible deniability about being responsible in any way. They said, your only job on this operation, where we're sending SWAT to a guy who said he'd cooperate, by the way, is once he's in custody, you'll drive him to court. You're just Uber. You're not doing anything wrong. And then you can say, well, that was a lawful order I was following. But theoretically, you're supposed to be vetted as a person of integrity and a critical thinker who can take a step back and look at the entire mosaic and say, yeah, but that's just me putting him on a train car. That might be legal. However, if that train car winds up at Auschwitz, I'm not dropping the Zyklon B, but I'm kind of part of that chain of events. So that's probably going to be a no for me, dog.
So what's weird is that we actually had this conversation last night on the call-in show, and one of our longtime listeners, Dan, was saying, how do you assess these actions? And I think it's very individual. Like you saw the bigger picture. You hold yourself to a certain standard. I hope other people hold themselves to the standard. I don't know all the mitigating circumstances. We recently found out about the story of a guy who was a Washington Field SWAT agent who also happened to be on the grounds of January 6th with the protesters as a protester. His name's Baker Dowdy, and I know him as a person. It's been a while since I've seen him, but I remember shooting on the range with him. I remember interacting with him in the team room, and he was a solidly decent human being. And apparently the story goes is that he went on a SWAT raid for a J6 case. One SWAT raid, found out what it was, and then said, I will not go on another one, and hasn't since then.
And to me, that's actually his job.
He still has his job. That's a defensible position in so much as I don't know enough information. And so asking the questions, which is what we're talking about here, which things were investigative tactics that were improper and unethical, that's the right answer. Like, why would the DOJ not be pursuing that, especially after they've done a blanket pardon from the president? This is what the elections have consequences should mean. That's just me talking there, unless you think otherwise.
No, I agree with you. And look, the Catholic memo reemerges. Say his name. Say his name. Kyle Seraphin's memo.
Isn't that fun? It's so fun. Okay, so look at the next three of them. You'll see them and watch and see what our interactions are, because this is not an accident.
Prior Justice Department guidance, policy memoranda, and practices concerning the investigation of parents at school children who expressed their sincere good faith concerns. That was hashtag AEDU officials that came out from Carlton Peoples.
So that's me, that's you, that's Garrett O'Boyle, all contributing to this problem that has been brought to the American people. So I love it when people come at me, and they'll come at me on social media, and they'll be like, where were you when parents were being investigated? It's like, hey, asshole, I'm the person that you're the only reason you know that is because of what I did. And I don't have a job because of it. So how about you just open your mind a little bit? But people are really happy to spout things that they don't know the origin of. And this is one of them. And then look at the last one on there, or the second to last one, rather.
Criminal prosecutions of FACE Act. So the 92% application against pro-life protesters during the Biden administration. And again, the use of it during the Biden administration was more than any other presidential administration in the 30 years. And he was only president for 4 years. Retaliatory targeting, and in some instances, criminal prosecution of legitimate whistleblowers. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi.
So there it is. So that's what is being brought to the table right now at this moment.
I'm here for it. I'm here for, and hopefully they staff it with people that actually want to get to the answers and not run cover like the Inspector General, not just get a couple of sound bites and so they can get on with Sean Hannity back in the day when he was thin enough to button his top button and wear a tie. Hopefully there's actual an appetite to hold the guilty accountable, and it can't just be, we've identified you for some sort of disciplinary action, maybe some further training, maybe a demotion, maybe not even termination. I want to see a prosecution. I need a scalp, because the stakes are high. When you raise your hand, you swear an oath, and you're in a position of public trust, you have enormous power to take someone's freedom away from them or potentially their life. And if you just shirk that responsibility and say, yeah, well, I was just following orders, then you need to be held accountable. Otherwise, we're not going to ever be able to have a reconciliation. We're not going to be able to do a renovation of America's federal law enforcement apparatus. It's going to have to be a demolition.
You want to spend a couple more minutes and show some of the fun stuff from USAID? Because I got a few more things I'd like to go on there. I'll have to apologize to my wife. We're going to go a little bit longer today because I want to. Okay, before we do that, let's go ahead and let you guys know if you want to follow us on Rumble, we'd appreciate it. If you have not liked, you have not subscribed to the channels, YouTube and so on, make sure you do. X, you can follow me at Kyle Seraphin, and our locals channel where we actually do the call-in show. It's kyleseraphin.com. You can find this in the replay on Spotify. That's where you can catch a video replay without any of the extra advertisements. So make sure you're doing all those things. We'd really appreciate it if you would. If you share it with one person, each of you did, we would double our audience. And that would be fantastic. I would really appreciate that. And I think that some of this fun stuff you won't hear in a lot of other places. Certainly not catching memos from the director's office at the FBI the same moment that it drops. Let me push another little clip at you because USAID, Steve, has been one of these pieces that people have been talking about. I was talking about misinformation. You heard Alejandro Mayorkas kind of push for the DEI nonsense. Here's where it gets real sketchy. And this is why that media government interplay that Mike Benz calls the blob has been sort of unmasked in this most recent Trump era. Check this one out. You ready? This is the former administrator of USAID under oath talking about how they did a great job. You're going to be shocked to hear Russia, Russia, Russia.
Well, certainly one of the things I'm very proud of in USAID is our efforts on countering malign Kremlin influence, for example, which basically rests on 4 pillars. It's a focus on democracy and rule of law, independent media, energy independence, and economic diversification. Through our efforts, we have been able to turn the tide on Russian disinformation, for example. For example, in Georgia, in April, Facebook credited USAID's local implementing partner for the removal of over 500 pages, 100 Facebook accounts, and 120 groups, which were created maliciously by the Kremlin to sow false narratives. In Serbia, we built partners' skills in fact-checking and debunking false narratives to expose Kremlin information. And I can keep going on with other examples. So we're very proud of our efforts to bring light to efforts not just by the Kremlin, but by the Chinese Communist Party as well.
They stopped misinformation, man. They saved democracy. Listen to them. They said it themselves.
Look, the government is always anxious to tell you how great of a job they're doing at all times and hopes that you don't actually assess the information that's being put out there. Like the fact that the bot accounts from the Russians were like less than 0.1% that were putting out information about the stop the steal or whatever the hashtag was, or release the memo. I think it was release the memo. That was the big one, right? The Devin Nunes memo. And they leave
Russia.
that part out of it, of course. And the Russian, they're still going to go back to this well. They think that it is going to be fruitful here. The fact is that the CIA, in its assessment, determined that in their intelligence gathering on the Russians, the only thing that they were able to ascertain from the Russians was that the Russians were aware that Hillary Clinton's campaign against Donald Trump was going to accuse him of colluding with the Russians. Not that he had colluded, but that just the Russians were like, yeah, they're going to pin this on us. That was the only actionable intelligence that we had.
Yeah, and honestly, they don't care
from
because
Brennan.
any chaos is good chaos in the Russian sphere of things. They don't need outcomes. What they need is opportunity. Anyway, here's Mike Benz kind of dismantling how they go about this stuff, which is to say that they go and demonetize people. This is their sophisticated apparatus, which actually is pretty sophisticated. It's just coming to light and everybody's screaming. They've turned the light on the cockroaches and the cockroaches are scattering as we see it right now.
USAID has a formal disinformation program focused on getting advertisers to cut off revenue to misinformation sites and purveyors of misinformation. And I have seen, they have this formally published. In fact, my organization, Foundation for Freedom Online, even published the formal disinformation primer in February 2021, 1 month after Biden took office, where in a 97-page USAID disinformation program memo, 31 times they mention the word advertisers as being necessary to kill the revenue to any social media site or any social media account or any independent web page that spreads misinformation. So USAID is contorting the economics of the entire news industry in order to get platforms to censor lest they go economically bankrupt. And
it's just basic shakedown, extortion, financial pressures. It's so simple.
So much of it's astroturfed as well. I mean, by these, again, they have that plausible deniability because they go in and out of government. So you'll work over at USAID and then you'll go work for some activist organization. They're all on the same team. And then those will be the groups that pressure advertisers to say, well, you probably shouldn't advertise on the Kyle Seraphin Show. He said things like women shouldn't be in law enforcement. That'd be bad for you.
Avow.
Right? And
I've said way worse things than that. I said women shouldn't be in the military because they can't make machine gun noises with their mouth. I avow that as well. I've got the funniest example that has come out of the fear of DOGE, right? Because what they've done is they've gone out. They're the ones that have exposed the spending at USAID, and they got a bunch of people that know how to do business, and they came in and they're hiring unusual types of people, usually young and highly motivated and maybe probably autistic, doing wild stuff. And so the story of Big Balls Online is maybe my favorite. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do, because we do meta-analysis here, Steve, all the time. I want you to tell me, Katie Drummond is the one being interviewed. She is an expert on Big Balls Online, because she is the global editorial editor for Wired magazine. So she knows about online things. And she's going to be talking about this, which is one of the funniest things. One, I want you to assess her degree of jealousy from 0 to 10, 10 being the highest. I want you to give me the top 3 places she most likely resides right now. And that's the biggest 2. So how jealous and where does she live? Are you ready? Here is one of the funniest clips you can find from CNN. Talking about balls.
Yes, so this is a 19-year-old high school graduate who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online, so that would be one way that we could refer to him. He is now working at Musk's behest inside DOGE, and we looked into his background. And so we found, several notable things, Aaron, one of which is that this individual has founded multiple companies, including one with another unfortunate name, Tesla.Sexy LLC, which he established in 2021. He would have been around 16 years old. Now, this LLC controls dozens of web domains.
Where's she from?
Oh, Upper East Side of New York.
She's from Brooklyn now.
Oh, okay. Close.
She's moved to Brooklyn. Yeah, you were close, but she's definitely a New York female, right?
Oh, pearl clutching. Attending parties where they put the H in front of the W and they say, what?
What did you say? Yeah, I've got a fun little thing. I didn't grab this beforehand, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it up.
The 16-year-old who started his own LLC, that's probably somebody who's not capable or competent or so super high intelligence, right?
Right. I mean, he only owns like a handful of websites. He has his own LLC to make money, and he's only a high school graduate. So obviously he's not one of us. This is a woman who also wrote pieces called Rich Men Rule the World. She also had a favorable piece about rich women who have strong influences and made a bunch of money. And she has that sort of like bangs haircut that I thought was out of vogue. But, there she is crying about it. And again, it says she's a resident of Brooklyn, which is fun. I have the last good person out of Brooklyn, I think. My wife is the last good person to have left Brooklyn as a female. She was saved and became Americanized fully.
That's good on you. I mean, the birthright citizenship doesn't apply, I guess.
No, she was she was naturalized here like any other person that gets naturalized. She got a passport, came to Texas, America, and then became American. This woman, Drummond, who you were listening to, you'll be shocked to learn that she was educated with a bachelor's of arts in philosophy at the Queen's University in Canada, aka she is a snow Mexican sycophant.
AKA she was not good enough to get into Wellesley, so she had to go abroad, right? So that she could have the bona fides of, I went international. Do not say abroad. You must not say abroad. That's like saying a man and a woman. I mean, what would you prefer? I call her Toots. She's just abroad, right?
Toots is appropriate. Actually, so we actually had a boss when I was working for the Bureau, my first boss, who we despised. We would refer to her as Toots behind her back because we thought that was the most diminutive thing out there. All right, last little thing that I want to think that is, or I want to share with you that I think is quite funny. This is coming from Sean Ryan's most recent interview. I actually was talking about his producer earlier. He said it was actually a pretty good thing and worth looking into. So I'm generally suspicious of women of Chinese ethnic descent only because I work the Chinese threat and they basically never relinquish their... there's a suspicion that people who have Chinese ethnic heritage will always be affiliated with China, and they are willing to work on behalf of the Chinese government, either by their own volition or because they are being extorted.
Might they tell Jamie Raskin that Donald Trump has some psychological problems, like a Dr. Lee?
Right? I know. I heard the same thing. So this is also a Lee. This is Lindy Lee. She's talking to Sean Ryan. The things she's talking about, I think, though, are probably accurate, even though I may question the motives on why she would do so. She was a National Finance Committee member for Kamala Harris. So just 15 seconds ago, she was working on behalf of the Democrats. She actually has a bio.
$1 billion in 100 days.
Here's what bothers me. If you look her up on Google right now, they list her as an American conservative. She's apparently switched teams so fastly that she has whiplash. But the things she's saying, I think, are worth it, because we did hear Jamie Raskin talking about, that the White House is basically run by people that are nuts. Nobody seems to be talking about this thing, which we were watching in real time.
After the debate, Hunter basically commandeered the White House. He sat in on all the White House top-level meetings. You had a former cocaine addict sitting in on the most sensitive meetings of the most consequential and important government in world history. Does that sit right with you?
No.
Without security clearance, mind you. No security clearance. That's who was basically running the show. So Hunter basically battened down the hatches after the debate to make sure that his father would only receive intel that he pre-approved.
Yikes. That's probably true.
Sure it is. That's why he moved into the White House. That was widely reported he was living there. And the president can basically give clearances just with not even a stroke of a pen. He can just verbally say it. So that's not really a concern there. I'm actually concerned for her health. She looks like a walking candy apple. Get that girl a sandwich.
She's just Chinese, dude. That's just what Chinese is. This is why this stuff is funny. This is coming from the New York Times. Musk, Trump, who exactly is running the federal government? Suddenly they give a damn who's in charge. They didn't seem to be worried about it when there was cocaine found in the White House and there was a dude who was living there that was a legit cokehead that had multiple federal charges. They were so upset about somebody who was a quote unquote felon, right? They've been so crazily angry about Donald Trump. But in the meantime, anyway, it just shows you that none of these people actually should be taken seriously, which is why the palate cleanse of the day is going to be quite fun. First, let me give you the final word. Tell people where the American Radical podcast is going this weekend, as you did, and then we'll do a palate cleanse for everybody.
The American Radicals podcast tomorrow, Saturday, 10:30 on Rumble, rumble.com/amradpod. We're going to get ahead of the DOGE. We want to be ahead of the curve. So I did a deep dive on housing and urban development and found some disturbing stuff that we're spending money on. It'll be fun. Join us there, 10:30 Eastern time. Garrett and I looking forward to it. Have a great weekend, guys.
All right. And as we close out, thanks for joining me, Steve. I'm going to give people a little taste of something fun. This is the most popular podcast in the world, parody edition. You have a great weekend. Enjoy this one out. Folks, make sure you've liked the video wherever you're watching it. Enjoy fake Joe Rogan. This is totally fake. I'm saying this for the YouTube people. It is fake. This is a impersonation done by AI. You should not take this too seriously, but it is pretty funny. Sometimes they get it right.
And we're live. Today we've got President Trump and Elon Musk in the studio. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, Joe. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, Joe. Now, President Trump, you've been back in office for less than 2 weeks, and it's fair to say you're keeping busy. How's it going?
Well, Joe, as you know, we're sending the bad people back to their countries. But if I'm honest, I think I may have overdone it with the Hispanics.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Joe, Taco Tuesday feels different now. Less taco, more Tuesday.
What about you, Elon? What's up?
The usual, building cars, science experiments, pioneering rocket technology.
How German of you.
Nice one. I did not see that one coming.
Come on, guys. Do you really think this is a good idea? Just kidding. Baby, I love you.
Anyways, Mr. President, what's next on your agenda?
Well, Joe, we've got a lot of things to take care of, starting with all of the...
Sorry, guys. I think there was something wrong with that elk steak I had for lunch.
Don't be sorry. You know I'm quite the farter myself.
Listen, guys, no one knows farts like I do. I have the best farts, the warmest farts, farts that smell like you've never smelled before.
I feel sorry for Melania.
Don't be. She's my closest competitor.
Hey, did you guys know I invented a new type of fart?
What?
Yeah, I call it the Admiral's fart. Check it out.
This guy's a genius.
What the hell was that? The Atmos fart. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that we have. We have 6 and pathetically juvenile sense of humor here at the Kyle Seraphin Show. Hopefully that makes you laugh going into the weekend. If you guys are listening to that, you can see the visual of it, which is very silly as well. Join us over on any of the places that we have video. Otherwise, give us a 5-star review on Apple. I appreciate you guys still doing that. We're well over 1,100 right now. So we crossed the 1,000 and I stopped asking for it. But if you got the time, fill out one of those. Until then, we're going to not have a Sunday sit down this week. We're saving. We got something really big coming next week. Should be, I think, incredibly interesting. So I got that booked out for next week, and we're going to put some time and energy into that. So give us a little little grace on that one, and I look forward to seeing all of you on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you get offline. I hope you put your phone in a Faraday cage, like a silent bag like I will, and get a little bit of time away for your mental health, and be nice to your neighbors. Some of them are struggling right now. They are really worried about their FBI job going away. All right, God bless you. We'll talk to you on the other side of the weekend. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.